Continue on to cover TP-Link products. TP-Link sent over their Tapo C420S2, so we could check it out. Now, I'm not a big fan of wireless cameras that require batteries for power, but TP-Link thought that maybe I should give these a try and reevaluate what I think about these cameras. So let's go ahead and take a look at these cameras. Let's quickly unbox this. I don't want to spend too much time on the unboxing this time around like we normally would, but just so everyone knows, this kit does of course come with 2 of their 2K cameras. So that is good, I guess. It's a great start, 2 of them. And then we also have a hub. So this is really interesting. I'm really interested to know if this hub can also control other TP-Link products. But we have this hub. We have a power adapter for the hub. We have 2 batteries for the cameras themselves. And then we, of course, have mounts for the cameras. Looks like we also have a USB charging adapter as well. And then we've got a quick start guide. We've got 2 little stencils, so you can figure out how to mount this when you're going screwed in. That's really great to have. And then looks like we have a USB to micro USB. Not a big fan of micro USB. The longevity on these cables is not good. And of course, we've got some mounting hardware and an Ethernet cable. It does not look like it includes a micro SD card. That's not too big of a deal, but honestly, for everything else they provided you with this kit, they should have just forked over a couple of micro SD cards, or maybe even just one that can go into the hub itself. Either way, now that we've got everything kind of laid out, let's talk a little bit more specifically about some of the actual items in here, and then we'll move on to the actual camera part. So I did want to cover these batteries specifically. These are rechargeable batteries, which is awesome. And there's 2 different ways to charge these batteries, which is really cool. Of course, they include the USB adapter, and then you could plug this in directly to, or this cable directly into that. And then you could plug into the batteries themselves, which is really cool to recharge these. This is an absolutely phenomenal idea. Whoever thought of this is a genius as far as I'm concerned. And there's also an LED indicator light. So red meaning that it is not charged, and I'm guessing green, I'm colorblind, I'm guessing green or yellow, indicating that it's fully charged. So, and you can do that with both of the included batteries, which is really cool. You don't have to go out and replace these batteries with something else. You can just continue recharging these over and over again. The second way to charge these batteries is by removing the back cover, inserting them like you would normally have them, I guess, in this, putting this back on. And there's a little door right here, which is really cool. This is a nice feature. And then you can just plug it in. So this is actually really great because now you don't necessarily have to disassemble the entire thing to charge the batteries. You can quite simply just plug it straight in here and off to the races you go. Before we get into setting up these cameras, let's go ahead and just talk about what they have to offer, or really what their specifications are. The infrared LEDs work up to about 49 feet. It has 2-way audio communication with a built-in microphone and speaker, which is really cool. We have motion detection, person detection, pet detection, vehicle detection built in. And of course, probably the other main highlights of this camera is H.264 compression with 15 to 20 frames per second, depending on what you select inside of the TP-Link app, the Tapo app. And also a resolution of 2K. Or 2560 by 1440. One nice feature about these cameras is when you're ready to resell them or get rid of them, you can actually factory reset this camera specifically by pressing and holding the button for about 15 seconds and releasing, and it will perform the reset function. The Tapo H200 Hub requires 9 volts of power or 0.85 amps, and they have included the power adapter for that, so you don't actually need to do anything. It would have been really cool if this device was PoE. We have an Ethernet port here on the rear. It would have been great for all the prosumers out there if this would be PoE. I understand why they didn't do it, but I think that's a small oversight on TP-Link's part. And then of course, also in the rear, we have the reset button, which you hold for about 10 to 15 seconds and release it to do the factory reset. And then of course, we have the micro SD card slot where you can save all of your videos and snapshots should you need them or want them. Before we begin the setup process, it's probably a good idea to go ahead and lay out everything you're going to need, which is of course going to be the cameras themselves, also your batteries and the Tapo Hub, as well as the power adapter for the Tapo Hub. Let's go ahead and get this powered on and connected directly to our router so we can get it configured. Our hub is ready to go. It looks like it's amber. Our 2 cameras are also ready to be set up. So to start the setup process or the import process, we can click on the add button, then we're going to go down to where it says hubs, and we're going to look for the H200. We see it right there. Click on next. I'm already connected directly to my router, and it is solid amber, as well, you might not be able to tell, but it is definitely solid amber. It found it pretty much immediately, which is awesome. We could change the name if we wanted, but I'm just going to leave it as is. This is going to eventually live in the server closet. I would highly recommend using the Ethernet cable instead of Wi-Fi, so mine will live in my server closet. And we can choose the icon here for the hub. You could change this if you really want. I'll assume this is for advanced user people, but for now, I'm just going to leave the default icon. And it's telling us that to use a micro SD card for local recording, we'll have to make sure it meets the following requirements. It must be a class 10 micro SD card and between 8 gigabytes and 256 gigabytes. I'm going to go ahead and take this opportunity to plug in my SD card, which is a class 10, which is not provided by Tapo or TP-Link, and that's okay. But we'll just insert that in the rear, and now we're good to go. So I'm just saying, got it. All right, I am not connected to the Wi-Fi. I am connected via Ethernet. So I'm just going to hit got it. And the setup is complete. There was no firmware to update, thankfully. So that was pretty easy. And now we're going to say pair another device. We're going to pair the C420 cameras, individually, I might add. I've already performed this step. The batteries are installed, so we just hit next. And I can definitely see that both cameras are blinking red and green on the front. So we'll select one at random and get this connected and paired. Not sure if you're able to hear that, but I have successfully added a device. So now we could give it a name. So this is Tapo Office. I'm going to leave it like that because that is the name or where it will be. So just hit that, put this one in the office, and I'm going to choose that office looking icon there. Hit next. I do not want a plan. This just outlines a plan. Yes, I understand what I'm missing out on. This is already done, and we're doing hello. Okay, quick test. I'm already on the Wi-Fi. Perfect. So if you click on this, this is basically install options, and it'll kind of go through like a guide of the best way to mount these things. Telling you not to mount it behind glass. We've already done this, so we'll just hit next, and we have finished that setup. Now we're going to add our second camera, doing the same set of steps. It's already waiting. There it is right there. And it's going to take a second to pair.
Device added successfully.
Great. So now we know that's been added. And we're already detecting motion there because I'm moving around as I'm recording this. We're going to name this one Backyard because that is where it will go. Hit next. Already have a location for the backyard. Hit next again. And I'm going to select this little tree and pot icon here just to kind of signify that it is part of the yard or whatever have you. Yes, I know about the plan. I understand. And we're going to do a quick test. There's my head and hand. So that appears to be working. This is also an installation guide right here that tells you the proper way to mount it, telling you all sorts of useful information. Probably the most important in here is the one that tells you about the angle, saying that this is not maybe must, but is ideally angled between 20 degrees and 25 degrees. So keep that in mind. That should be about 7 to 10 feet up and for ideal conditions. My battery's already fully charged, I think, so whatever. We're just going to go ahead and skip out of this. I'm not going to go through the entire tutorial on best how to mount that. And there you go. All of our devices have successfully been added to the Tapo app, so now we can play around with them and see what they're capable of. First thing I want to know is if this camera can actually work or send notifications without there being internet access. So we're going to head over to the server closet and disconnect ourselves from the internet. I have no idea if this is even good quality or how well this is working. So if I unplug this here, I will no longer have internet access. Our internet connection is gone and start moving around. I saw an indicator light on the front of the camera, but I'm not seeing any notifications pop up on my smartphone. So I'm guessing, like most smart devices, you lose notifications when you don't have internet access, which is kind of a downside, or especially when the hub is sitting right here in front of me. It's like, what's the real point of the hub aside from collecting video and snapshots? Like, why can't it also send out notifications, especially when you're on your local network? So that is kind of a downside, and I don't like that. However, reasonably speaking, the internet's not down that often. However, that's one feature I would definitely like to see. In these next few shots, all we're trying to do is see if we can read this license plate at all, as well as just observe the general quality of the camera. And I would say overall during the daytime, the camera is working its best, but I can't see in these particular moments when we're too far away where we can actually make out what the license plate says. But we can, as we approach the camera and get much closer to it, that license plate reflection does clear up, and then we can very briefly make out what it's saying. Obviously, on this next approach, I'm walking away from the camera and just kind of seeing when the license plate fades out. I'd say I'm probably about, I don't know, 14 feet away before the camera fades out, but that's just a guess on my part. Here at night, we're pretty much doing the same test, and that license plate is pretty much impossible to see due to all the reflection. And overall, I would say the quality of the night camera is pretty good, especially as the target is very close. You can pretty much make out all the details of my face pretty well there as I stood still very briefly. And as I'm sitting still, you can see my face pretty well. Walking around's pretty hard to make out, you know, too many facial features, but we can see the overall face. Now, turning on the light, it is pretty bright at night, but it is pretty cool because it gives color to the entire scene, and you can actually see the yellows and the flowers over there. Inside is a pretty similar story. It works really well as an infrared light. It pretty much lights up the entire garage. For me, it's pretty pitch black. I can barely make out the cars that I'm walking in between. Now, again, testing the license plate, we can see that the reflection is obviously extremely high, so there's no way we're going to make out their license plate while we're standing in the garage. And that's pretty common amongst a lot of cameras. It's not exclusive to Tapo. And then, of course, now we're just testing the light that comes with the camera, and when it's lit up the room or the garage, it looks pretty good. You can make out pretty much everything. Turning off the light pretty much hides all of my features.
I'm standing about 9 feet away from the camera, and this is what it might sound like when you're in an enclosed space, like my garage. I'm standing about 10 feet away from the camera, and this is what it might sound like if the camera's mounted somewhere outside. If someone's approaching your front door, this is what it might sound like if they're talking to the camera.
One thing I want to talk about is just how responsive this app is. So we can go back and view all of our media just by clicking on playback and memory. And you can see it pretty much loads all the video instantaneously and starts playing it back, which is really cool. And we can see the same effect with videos that I manually recorded to the memory card. So just press play and it starts going. Open another video, press play, and it just starts going. It's actually very quick. And you know, that's something I wish I could have from my high-end equipment from Ubiquiti, which is something that it does actually take a while to load things that are already saved, which is interesting. I'm not sure why this performs so well, but I am definitely pleased with the performance of this. One complaint I do have about the mounting hardware that's included are with the screws specifically. These are insanely easy to strip. I managed to strip two, one very badly when I was trying to screw this into wood, and I stripped it completely. So if you are gonna be drilling into wood or brick, definitely make sure that you pre-drill a hole, a pilot hole for your screws, and then drill them in. So that way you don't do what I did and strip these, because again, they strip very easily. Let's talk about power consumption. So here is the Tapo Hub, and you can see that it's basically moving between 1.4 and 1.7 watts. And this is currently connected to the Wi-Fi. There are cameras running, so you know it's actually being utilized. And if we go through here, we can actually see that it's cost us 0 cents to run so far. It's used 0.7 kilowatts per hour, and I believe that's over 69 hours.
Nice.
So that is not a lot of power at all. It's literally cost us nothing to run so far. And that's very impressive, if I must say so myself. So just to run this hub for an entire year is estimated to cost me $1.13. The C420 camera is actually pretty impressive. It's packed full of features that I think most people would expect nowadays. The hub is super responsive. The app is super responsive. The ease of use and the understandability of everything, I would say, is very easy and great. I am actually pretty impressed with this product. Now, I am still a bit hesitant about battery-operated devices. This claims that it can last to 180 days, but obviously that's not realistic. But it also depends on how much activities going on in front of the camera and how much of that activity actually is being recorded. Because obviously if something's happening all of the time, you're not going to get 180 days of battery out of this. You know, you could get significantly less, but that's all dependent on the environment this camera's in. And it's cool that this camera can be indoors and outdoors with its IP65 rating. So, you know, there's a lot of flexibility here, but I don't know where I stand. I'm kind of split right now between the idea of being able to mount the camera wherever I want, anywhere I want, with different mounting features that just make it easy to pop on a desk or mount to a wall, and off to the races you go because Wi-Fi is great. But at the same token, there's something really nice about having a cable go to a camera and giving it power, and then having a switch be on a UPS. Obviously, that's very expensive. Now, for entry level though, this is quite the deal, and I'm starting to see why TP-Link or Tapo thinks that this product is probably more for your basic users and probably a little bit of power users as well. So I'd like to know what you guys think about this product in the comments below. Definitely let me know what your thoughts are if you have any. And with all that being said, I want to thank each and every one of you for watching, and I will see you all next time. Peace.